Well, hello there. Today we're going to be talking about the Canadian Experience Class. Canadian Experience Class for persons who are working in Canada on work permits but who want to become permanent residents. So if you want to learn more about that, stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to our channel below, and also be sure to visit us at go.gooselaw.com. Stay tuned. Hi there, my name is Donovan Francis and I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer who helps skilled workers who are inside and outside Canada to become permanent residents without having to deal with complicated immigration forms. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Canadian Experience Class. Now, the Canadian Experience Class is one of several options that are available to foreign nationals who are wanting to become Canadian permanent residents, or wanting to apply to become Canadian permanent residents. This particular option is available for persons who are already in Canada, persons who are working in Canada legally on a work permit, and who now want to apply for their Canadian permanent residency while they're in Canada. Now, there are a few eligibility criteria that you will have to meet in order to qualify under the Canadian Experience Class option. First of all, you naturally must have been working in Canada legally for at least 1 year in the last 3 years. And this work could have been full-time work, or it could have been part-time work, which when added up works out to be equivalent to full-time work. So you must have been working for at least 1 year in the last 3 years while in Canada. Now, the type of work that you must have been doing is also going to be important. The work that you must have been doing must have fallen into one of 3 job categories. Now, these 3 job categories are they fall within what the government of Canada describes as the National Occupational Classification Codes. So there are 3 skill types that fall within this occupational classification system that would be eligible under the Canadian Experience Class. Now, the first skill type work area is what's known as the NOC-O. Now, NOC-O type jobs are really management type jobs. So persons who are currently working in Canada, IT managers, marketing managers, senior managers in other capacities, they are typically going to fall within a NOC-O job. So persons who fall into the category of a NOC-O job would be eligible, would have met the eligibility criteria as far as the type of work that they would have been doing in Canada is concerned. The second category of persons who would qualify are persons who fall into the NOC-A type. Now, NOC-A type jobs are jobs that typically require a first degree. They're jobs that are usually completed by professionals. So persons who are in the IT industry, an IT architect, somebody who is a business analyst, or an engineer, or a nurse, or any other professional type job that requires at minimum a first degree would typically fall into a NOC-A category, and would therefore also be eligible under the Canadian Experience Class. The third category, skill type, that would be eligible would be skill types that fall under the NOC-B category. Now, NOC-B type jobs are jobs that are carried out by persons who are typically skilled in hands-on type jobs, persons who pursue jobs in the trades, persons who typically have a college diploma or some kind of apprenticeship designation. Those types of jobs typically fall within a NOC-B job category. So generally speaking, applicants for Canadian permanent residency are required to meet a minimum language proficiency level in either English or French. And the extent of your ability to speak in either English or French is going to be measured depending on the category within which you fall. But the critical thing to know is that language requirement is meeting the minimum language requirement is also an important element of the Canadian Experience Class process. Now, so those are the critical qualifying criteria in order for you to apply for the Canadian Experience Class program. Now, it's important to understand that the selection process for the Canadian Experience Class program happens under what's known as express entry. Now, you can think of express entry as really being some kind of a pool in which general people who meet the basic eligibility criteria to apply for Canadian permanent residency are put. But then once they're put there, they're then sifted out. And this sifting process is done in the form of assigning points based on how well you have ranked, based on how well you've done in your language tests, for instance, based on other elements such as whether or not you have a job offer. All of those are put together, and the highest scoring applicants are pulled from that pool. Now, persons who are applying under the Canadian Experience Class program would have been pulled from the express entry pool. And so what it means, therefore, is that a part of the requirement for the Canadian Experience Class program is that you must first apply to get put into the express entry pool. And it is only after being put into the express entry pool that you then would be eligible to receive an invitation to apply under the Canadian Experience Class stream. So in a nutshell, those are the eligibility criteria that you must meet in order to qualify to apply under the Canadian Experience Class program. Now, in terms of processing times, approximately 80% of applications made under this stream are processed within 6 or so months. However, you must bear in mind that processing times will vary depending on the volume of work that the immigration authorities have, or depending on the particular situation. It's important to note that there's no requirement for proof of funds under the Canadian Experience Class program. So generally, persons who are applying under some of the other channels, such as the skilled worker channel, they are required to show that they have enough money to maintain themselves in Canada, typically for 6 or so months. So I'm just going to quickly, before we wrap up, I'm going to quickly walk you through the steps that you would expect to follow if you were going to be applying under the Canadian Experience Class. So first of all, you must have a Canadian work permit. You must have been working in Canada legally for at least 1 year. So that's step one. You must have your Canadian work permit and have worked in Canada for at least 1 year. You must have completed a language test and have scored well enough to allow for you to be provided with an invitation to apply. You must create an express entry profile in order to get put into the pool from which your application would be then pulled, you would then be offered an invitation to apply. And once you receive an invitation to apply, there are other things that you will need to do. You'll need to get a medical, for instance, security clearance, or background, getting your background checks done. All of that would then have to be done at that point, which would also be the point when, or just before, you'd be submitting your e-application, which is the actual permanent residency application, now that you've been invited to apply. So in a nutshell, that is the Canadian Experience Class program. I trust that you found value from this, and please go ahead and subscribe to our channel below and check us out at our website at www.go.gooselaw.com. Thanks so much for joining us. See you again.